Good morning. Mike and Corey here today on this fine Monday morning, December 9th. Today's topics we're going to cover some news about Donald Trump and Jerome Powell that I believe is good news. So we're going to hit that. And then the best managed companies. The list is out, and some of those are ones that we hold investments in. So we like to see that. And then Corey's going to talk about what's going on over in China. I know in the past we've had investments there. We do not right now, but you never know in the future if the right opportunity is there. But Corey's going to cover that. So this is a financial education presentation. You must do your own due diligence on anything that you hear in this presentation. More disclaimer information can be found on ankerstarwealth.com, and the opinions expressed are mine and Corey's alone. So let me start off by sharing my screen and this article. Donald Trump says he won't try to remove Fed Chief Jerome Powell. And I will say that, this past year, as Jerome Powell, has directed towards this soft landing, as interest rates have been, high, inflation's been high, and I mean, a lot of things could have went wrong that would put this country into a recession. Um, Jerome Powell's done very well. Done very well. I mean, there's obviously, you can always in hindsight say, well, I should have done this or should have done that, but I believe he has done a great job. So, and just so everyone knows, Donald Trump appointed Jerome Powell in 2018. So it's not like Powell was appointed by someone else or whatever. But in the past, Trump has had his disagreements in 2020 on handling of interest rates and maybe getting into a little bit that he shouldn't get into, where Powell's, their main mandates are unemployment and inflation. Those are the two things they're really trying to do. And the presidential cycle, the business cycle, I mean, these are things that are outside of their control at the Fed. So Powell has done a great job. So I want to scroll down because I was reading the wordings of this. So I'm going to say it because I just think it's interesting. They asked Trump, will you try to replace Jerome Powell? No, I don't think so. I don't see it. And then he replied, but I don't. I think if I told him he would resign, that's what they were saying. But if I asked him, he probably wouldn't. But if I told him, he would. It's very interesting this, but they followed up. So you don't have plans to basically have him resign now? No, I don't. So I know that's very shaky wording and all that. That's certainly not a huge voice of confidence in it, but Powell's done well. His term goes through May of 2026. I do hope he serves out that term and then they can decide appropriately. But anyways, I just think this is good news that as a new administration comes in January, that things that have worked well, and you can say the economy, jobs, you can say there's lots of things that haven't worked well, but the Fed is one that has worked well. So they're not trying to replace that. So that's good news. Another thing that came out that I thought was great is on the Wall Street Journal online, but they have the annual management top 100, 250 ranking of America's best run companies. And it took over number one again is Apple unseated Microsoft. So Apple takes over that number one spot. Microsoft, NVIDIA, and I'm going to show you Intel, which is very interesting because their CEO just resigned or was fired, but so they have some turnover. But I'm going to show you this top 250, at least the top 10 of it. So these are the top run managed companies in this country. So I will tell you that within our models, and certainly the more aggressive ones, Apple, NVIDIA, Microsoft, all three are in our models. Now, after that, you go down to number 8, and we'll have Alphabet or Google. Some of these other ones are certainly within ETFs that we use. Some of the more value, I would say, Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble. I don't know that Philip Morris is in there. Some people may have an issue with that since that has to do with tobacco. But, hey, number 10 as far as the best run companies. And I'll scroll down. I didn't even look at the next 10, but we'll see. I know that Nike is one that we have in our ego stocks. Amazon there comes in at number 19, certainly in our models. So, these are just different ways to look at possible investments. Just because a company is the best run or best managed, it doesn't mean it's the right investment for you. Like for example, Philip Morris is a heavy dividend producing, not a big growth company as compared to say an Amazon or Salesforce. So, you know, and also just because a company's well managed doesn't mean it's in an industry where it's going to be a profitable investment. So, take a John Deere. I've looked at this stock in the past and closely followed it as a possible investment, but so far haven't seen it really break out to go ahead and invest in it yet. So with that, I'll turn it over to Corey and he'll talk to us a little bit about China.
Talking about those potential investments, I saw this morning an article pop up. China was vowing more proactive fiscal stimulus measures, moderately looser monetary policy. So China's been facing some headwinds, but what's really going to hurt China moving forward is some future headwinds. So some of the things going on right now, China's GDP growth has been slowing. Some of their international trade partners have been a little more hesitant with China, particularly under the Xi Jinping rule that they're currently under. So some of that's an issue. Statistically, China's productivity per worker has been declining. And one of the ways that China tries to overcome this declining productivity among their workforce, and again, when you think of productivity, you're not necessarily thinking of lazy or working hard. I certainly think that the workforce in China is working very hard, but you're really thinking about efficiency and things that make work more productive. And that's something that the United States has been really good at, and China hasn't found ways to automate and make things more efficient and make workers more productive. So one of the ways that China tries to combat this slowing of productivity is by stimulus. But of course, stimulus and adding debt. So China's debt to GDP is at the highest it's been in recent history, and it's increasing. Let me see if I have a chart there. So this is just China's national debt. It doesn't show you the GDP, but China's debt has been increasing as a percentage of their GDP, and that's a negative. But China's trying to stimulate. They're trying to force economic growth, but it's not happening. And so what you're really getting is you're getting subsidized products that are flooding the global marketplace. When I hear that, I think of like Temu and things like that, these very cheap subsidized products, but they're not really representing pure economic growth. It's kind of being funded by stimulus and debt and not pure economic growth. So one of the other headwinds that China faces, and we'll swing by the United States here for this, but thinking about the population over the next few decades. I like looking at these population pyramids. You see the United States population, 343 million. Is the United States population pyramid the best that you'll see out there? No, but we do at least, and again, we do have those 30 to 34-year-olds. Raise your hand. That's me. That's the big group of us out there. Yeah, but you don't see a dramatic pinch of the younger group. A little bit better population pyramid, India. India still has a pretty young skew to their population pyramid. They don't want to see this pinch too much towards the bottom with their young part of their population, but pretty healthy. Very healthy, really, globally. Oh, sorry, I didn't share. There's the India.
Yeah,
right
bring up
there.
India.
Sorry about that. And then let's go, and of course a large population there, so a lot of people to take care of in the population for sure. Jumping over to China, there was the one-child policy. There was the very, very strict COVID lockdowns. that extended for a very long time. China's population, in about 15 years, there's this huge wave of people that are going to need to be taken care of, and there's not enough people to take care of them. So the statistic I read was, I think 50 years ago or 30 years ago, there was 15 working age people for every senior citizen. And in 15 years, there's going to be 2 working age people for every senior citizen.
Wow.
So it's a huge headwind. And of course, you can't stimulate your way out of that. China also has a couple of other headwinds moving forward as well, which is they used to be exporters of agricultural products and oil products. They blew through many of their oil energy reserves, their coal reserves. They've really didn't take care of their land in the agricultural product. They also used many other natural resources far too aggressively to really create that economic growth in the past. And now they are huge net importers of agricultural products and energy products. So,
Wow.
they're not really able to kind of live off the land and use their own resources the way they used to.
Can
So,
you pull up Japan on that? I'd like to see what Japan's
oh,
age.
the Japan is probably, yeah, one of the worst. Let me grab that one really quick. It might be the worst actually. But
And I do think it's so interesting because there's such while we're going to hear all kinds of things in the new year about tariffs and China and all this, ultimately China's making products that consumers buy, and what country has the most buying consumers? It's the United States. So if there was ever China said we're not shipping anything to you, there's not TVs and iPhones and all kinds of things coming. So we really, in this global community, we really do need to be good players and partners. Um, it's just interesting to me to see how this goes forward. So go
there's
ahead, Corey.
hope. There's hope that I think Xi Jinping is in the 70s. There's hope that under a new regime, there might be a realization that China does need the world, and needs to play nice in a lot of different ways, and hopefully that will help China and, like you said, help the world. But one thing I think about when you're looking at investments in China, you just want to take all of these headwinds into account. There are good companies there that trade at very attractive valuations, but you have to take these headwinds into account if you're going to really invest there. Here's the Japan
Yeah.
population pyramid. You see a really tight pinch in the younger populations. I think the birth rate is extremely low, and you can see that the population will be,
Projected to decline.
yeah, I mean, it could be cut in half this century
And
almost. So
take a look at Australia as well. I remember hearing, you say you can't stimulate your way out of a population thing. I do remember reading where, like in Australia, was incentivizing people to have kids. I don't know if it worked, where they were
yeah,
like,
they
if you have a
growing
kid, we're going to give you
population.
$5,000 or whatever. So, I mean, that growing population is a key for any country. And when it starts declining, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, yeah. There's been a few countries that, like United States, Canada, those are attractive places to migrate to, so
Yep.
they can use migration as a way to combat that. But yeah, I think you'll probably see a lot of countries incentivize parenthood with probably some economic advantages, in the
I,
moving forward. Do you see the Australia there? Hold on.
no, there you
So
see it. Yep.
it's a little it's a little bit more like the United States.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's one thing I just think it's important to know that I mean, a growing country is a good thing. And sometimes, we're going to hear about immigration as being like, oh my gosh, obviously illegal, unvetted immigration is not a good thing. But
Right.
immigration in itself, the right people coming in, contributing to the country. I mean, this country was built on immigration. Guess what? So,
Well, and
there is a right way to do things.
the United States, I think we've got the second most land of any country. And is that right? Are we second, or are we third?
I don't know.
I think
It's
it's
hard.
Russia, Canada, and then us. So Russia, Canada, but
Wow.
but the point is we have room. We have room to grow our population. Yeah, and like you said, you don't want to. There's right and wrong ways to do that, but the United States can grow.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for listening in. We will talk to you later. The market, when I looked at it right before we started, was just flat or choppy. There wasn't anything that interesting to report yet. But as we go into this holiday period, hopefully we get our Santa Claus rally and get even a little more. It has been a fantastic year so far, and we just hope that continues, and we'll go into next year. Thanks everybody. Bye.